Talking points.
Talking points, then we go. And we're kicking off with King of Steel and Amo Racing. So this is obviously the news that a great shame for racing, for the team as well, that King of Steel is going to miss the early season targets, hopefully getting him back towards the back end of the summer, but also no longer with Roger Varian. Look, there's clearly, Neil, with Keir Jorabshan, with Amo Racing, there's a volatility there when it comes to connections. We've seen that with riders, rightly or wrongly, and now there's no more Amo horses at Roger Varian's yard. Owner's prerogative there, right? They can do what they want.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, whoever pays the bills can do whatever the hell they like, and nobody should really be able to argue with that. Having said all of that, first of all, I thought it was quite the Matt Chapman interview on ITV. He's good. It was good. Yeah. Except for, to an extent, Keir sort of says, "Oh yeah, I'm kind of Mr. Straight talking, honest." And then suddenly he's like, "Yeah, I don't want to talk about that. I'm going away now." I didn't really kind of get that. Like, if he's already told Roger Varian he's taking the horses away, Roger Varian says there are no Amo horses left in his yard. It's not like he can't talk about it because he's got to kind of save the feelings of the Varian staff and stables. He hasn't had a chance to explain himself to them. Sometimes in that situation you want to say, "Well, I need to speak to the relevant people before I speak to the media." He has been a kind of big media guy. I don't really understand why he suddenly got really reticent at the last minute there. The other question is just, this merry-go-round. He's got a lot of trainers as well. Anyway, he's got horses with at least 10 other people right now, maybe 12. Does there come a time where, he starts to run out of people to go to? And do people... I mean, there's not many trainers in the UK that could probably... If he came with, 8 thoroughbreds worth £1 million, there's not too many people that are going to say, "Well, I don't fancy that because, he's not likely to last and he's going to be difficult to deal with." I don't know, James, if they turned up on your doorstep on Tuesday morning, the box is there and he's saying, "Have you got some space for these, James?" Would you be rubbing your hands together or would you be thinking, "Oh, my God"?
I don't think that would be an issue with me.
You'd take them? Oh, you haven't got the boxes?
No, I don't think he'd be asking me, so it wouldn't be a problem.
Oh, come on. You're the stable informed.
I was going to say, you're flying.
Yeah,
whatever. But I try not to fall out with existing owners, but, you try and sort of, get on with people and...
but even if you thought, well, it's going to only last 6 months, and he's bound to be quite volatile and get the hump at some stage, would you take him?
Well, I'll probably get to the stage when anything for an easy life, so you can read that as you like.
Bad luck here. Cross that one.
I don't know what the easy life is. Good horses turning up on your doorstep or not. I don't. Yes,
I think it's. You could ask me. You could ask someone else. Probably Tom would be throwing things at the telly, saying, "Dad, what are you on about?" So, but I think you try and get on with your owners you've got, and then hopefully that leads to something else. And there's ups and downs, but. His track record isn't great.
Just a quick thing before we go. I know we've run out of time already, but there's one group of people that I never really considered in this, the stable staff. It's all very well to say, "Oh, it's bad for the trainer's business and all that kind of thing." But, certain stable staff have become very attached to those horses and they're suddenly wrestled away. It's easy to say, "Well, we can move them really quickly and easily and it's no big deal."
I think, Joe, you can have a quick look. The groom who looks after King of Steel ultimately that'll be a great loss.
It will definitely. I feel for really. They've done obviously a lot of media work with in the preliminaries of last year, and when you have that responsibility, that's your horse, and you've looked after them for so long, to then suddenly get taken away, you do get attached. I know you shouldn't do, and my granddad's the first one to say never get too attached to horses because you never know when they're gonna leave and go, but you do get attached.
Next up, we move on to the Irish exemption question mark. So this is ministers in Ireland have been urged to consider exemption for the racing channels, notably Sky Sports Racing and Racing TV from advertising Watershed. This is the ban on gambling advertising, Neil, between 5:30 a.m. and 9 p.m. currently. The counter to that is that the junior minister for the Department of Justice has said that could mean there's a monopoly on gambling advertising in the country for said broadcasters.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, if they don't have an exemption, obviously it puts into question the whole broadcasting of Irish racing. I mean, it just probably becomes not viable. So it's a massive issue. In Ireland, even more so than in the UK. You know, there's a lot of government money that goes into horse racing. It's an industry more than it's a sport, really. And you know, this is threatening the very heart of it. I feel like the minister in question, this is a hobby horse, it's a bugbear of theirs, it's not something they're going to back down from. I don't think the exemption's necessarily going to work, but the question has to be, how have the horse racing authorities in Ireland not managed to make that case? Because this is not something that's come in the last 5 minutes. And this is a huge industry in Ireland. And how have they not managed to persuade government about, you know, the cost-benefit analysis of this? The idea that lots of people are becoming addicted to betting on horse racing. You know, if you're already watching horse racing on a horse racing channel, you're not someone that's getting sucked into betting on horse racing who's susceptible to be an addict. You're already a fan of the sport. You're already betting on the sport. It's not casual viewers that we're talking about here, and I just feel like that's a case they should have made, really.
ITV BAFTA win next. This is the second BAFTA. Joe, to have horse racing on terrestrial TV over here, to see the other sports that the team were up against, for them to win another BAFTA. I mean, I know we bemoan quite often the state of horse racing in this country. We're fairly lucky to have it on terrestrial TV and winning awards up against Wimbledon finals and other things like this. Yeah, definitely. Credit to the ITV racing team. You know, they do a brilliant job. You know, sometimes if I'm not going racing and follow the team and, you know, have it on the ITV player, they do such a brilliant job, and they interact with the person that's not so horse racing, so they're not too much on the betting side, but they more talk about the horse and what to look for, and you know, they do a brilliant job, and credit to them, they've got a BAFTA for it. Like you say, coming up against other sports like your footballs and your boxings and whatnot, to then get credited for that of racing. You know, I think, yeah, they've done a brilliant job. And it was for day one of Cheltenham Festival, which again was another day where we sort of went. It was an amazing day, wasn't it? The honeysuckle day and all that kind of thing. But the one thing I wanted to say was, apparently I spoke to somebody at ITV and they told me that they have to kind of suggest sports that might be, you know, kind of in the running for something to the kind of committee or whatever. And so horse racing often puts forward and says, well, we had this big event that happened here, maybe you might think about that. And they, you know, then a decision is made on who's going to be nominated. So horse racing, I think, has been nominated 3 times for a BAFTA, which, you know, relative to other sports that are on ITV, is punching massively above its weight. And to win 2 in just recent years is huge. I think, you know, it would be terrible, terrible, terrible for the sport of horse racing in the UK if ITV lost horse racing. And this is a thing that makes that much less likely to happen. So, you know, it's actually way more important than I think people tend to think when they just say, oh, they won an award, great, whoopee-doo, whatever. You know, it's pretty important to the future of the sport. Unpredictability next. This is down to Neil. It's not a description of Neil at all. It's on the prices of the top races so far this season. So there we are. 6 Group 1s in Britain and France so far. Those are the SPs. They're all double figures. James, I'll throw that at you first of all. Is that's it's fairly unheralded. I don't know what is that just an anomaly, do you think, as a season? Well, it's springtime, so you don't always get you know, that much. So things can sort of change an awful lot from a trial to the actual big day. So, you know, you talk about the trials. Do you think it's slightly a change in the training regime, though, that the money is stacked up in the autumn and the end of season targets,
and people are slightly less bothered about the earlier big races.
Well, and having
big
raced
races, they're Group 1s, you know.
And having raced in the winter, the previous winter anyway. You know, they could have gone to Dubai and that sort of thing, and then raced in
Has
in
it just changed? Will races like the Guineas just not be as important anymore in the future of horse racing?
I hope not. A lot would depend on the money, you know. But the classics are sort of set in stone at the moment. But there's around the world, there's so many lucrative prizes. So you end up racing late and then starting early again. So you're going to get different results.
Could the wet time of it be in any way?
Yeah, wet
I don't know.
I mean, do you think that's a bigger factor?
Yeah, well, it depends when your horses come. It's always difficult, especially with fillies, to get them spot on for their first race.
Because your stable has been one that has traditionally kind of bloomed in the summer more than in the early season.
Yeah.
Is that the kind of horses you tend to get, or the way that you tend to think about the season?
Well, you sort of try and sort of get things sort of growing gradually, so you do peak in the summer. But some yards start off flying. You know, I mean, sort of Mick Channing, well, Jack's doing really well, but Mick sort of 2 years ago won every other race, you know, when it had that wet spell. So, but I think what's quite good is there's some other people getting a look in this year rather than the actual big guns, you know.
Yeah, we've definitely seen that. Crown Jewels next. So this is something we flagged. Lee Mottesed's article in the Big Read last Sunday about British racing packaging up 40 big flat fixtures and essentially offering it up to the highest bidder. You know, a step on from Premier Racing. It could see a big injection of cash into British racing, but equally, I think there's a long way to go before this actually happens, if indeed it does at all. It would mean racecourses potentially relinquishing some control as well. But I guess the main thing, I was thinking 40 fixtures. Where are we? Where
are the 40?
So obviously you've got a couple of York meetings. You've got your Guineas, you've got your Derby, you've got your Chester, you've got your Goodwood, you've got your Royal Ascot. Back-end 2-year-old races of the season at Newmarket. Champions Day. We're still up to about sort of 30 odd. You've got your individual days, King George Day, Lockinge Day. Yeah. But I mean,
I don't know.
Would it be better to be smaller?
There's so many questions about this thing that I didn't really get. I mean, if there is this kind of magical, huge pot of money waiting there maybe in the Far East or in Qatar or whatever, that's waiting to come in and essentially buy British racing, well, it could have come in already, couldn't it? All these races are up for sponsorship, or they're up for, you know, you can buy horses, you can sponsor races, you can buy race courses. I mean, why would there be a load of money that's been holding back until suddenly you can buy some fixtures? I mean, I don't know.
I guess if you're looking at the boxing last night in Saudi, talk of snooker potentially going over there. Not wishing to just pinpoint Saudi, but that is obviously the place where a lot of sports are heading. The difference here would be that the racing isn't going to move from the UK. It's going to be at those.
The other question is that, you know, we talked already about Royal Ascot being such a big thing. The package of the Crown Jewels, if it doesn't have Royal Ascot in it, it's no Crown Jewels. Does that mean that the king, who basically owns it, has to be involved in the negotiations? How does that work? I don't really see that being a big runner.
Yeah, it's interesting that this has been, you know, it's out there and it's being considered anyway.
I can't see the royal family selling off the family silver. I mean, you've got a few crowns and stuff you can flog first, surely.
Back to unpredictability. 12 months. This is you again.
God, sorry.
12 months. That's fine. Listen,
you asked me if I could think of some things.
So 12 months on from the white paper.
I know,
I actually
amazing,
don't know where we are.
We waited about 20 years for that white paper. One MP got sacked for saying he could leak it. Everybody knew what was in it anyway. I just thought it was, you know, we like to speak about affordability every week. Some people are probably bored by it. At the end of the day, it is destroying the funding of racing at the moment. And I just thought 12 months on, there were a few things that just never seemed to get mentioned. You know, it was supposed to be a once-in-a-lifetime chance to review gambling and to build a gambling act for the future of gambling. We never talked about security of funds. You know, you have some bookmakers that keep your funds ring-fenced. Other bookmakers, it's in the pot, and if they go bankrupt, you've lost your money if you've got it deposited there. How is that allowed to happen? Why can't we change that? have some consumer protection here. Every bookmaker has different terms and conditions. Some of them are really opaque and some of them just seem way in favour of the bookmaker. Why did the Gambling Commission not just say, right, here's the terms and conditions, if we're giving you a licence, these are the terms and conditions you have to offer, we've written them, and if you're signing up for a licence, you sign up for that. Similarly with rules, you know, like each bookmaker has different rules. Quite often an event finishes, there's a controversy over something, this bookmaker's paying out, this one's not paying out. How can that be a thing? How can they invent their own rules? Why can't the Gambling Commission just say, these are the rules of gambling in the UK as the organisation that legislates gambling? Why do they always fine people when they do stuff wrong? When we find out that some postman from Leeds has bet 40 grand in a morning without, you know, depositing 58 times, and it turns out to be money he's embezzled from somewhere. You know, they get fined for that, and they just move on and go on to the next one. Why does no one ever lose their licence? You know, that never happens. If it does, it's always some tiny firm you've never heard of gets their licence suspended. None of the big boys ever have their licence suspended or taken away altogether. There's so many things from this whole process which has dragged on for so long. It's gonna go. We're gonna find that, you know, racing's finances are going to be decimated by this whole gambling thing, gambling review, gambling act, whatever. And so many things that could have been sorted out are just never going to get looked at.
And finally, the Tony Martin ban. So this is just bring you up to speed here. So the 3-month suspension for anti-doping, breaking anti-doping rules. He had a judicial review and it was unsuccessful. That was a couple of days ago. I guess one of the points here, that's the third Martin-trained winner in 4 years to fall foul of a drugs test. I mean, I'll come to you.
Oh, don't come to me, because I feel like I've dominated. I don't want people to slag me off on social media.
It's going to happen. I mean, it happens. Right?
You've got thick skin, Neil.
I mean, yes. I don't know whether in this as an individual case, a 3-month suspension may be fair enough. I guess just the fact that it's the third in 4 years, whether or not that should be taken into account. I don't know how you feel about other trainers, James, falling foul of drug regulations. I know this is in Ireland, but whether or not there should be sort of a multiple offence procedure or not, that actually you get a more severe punishment.
I think there is. You know, if you get, you know, things happen because it's so rigorous and we're so tightly monitored. Occasionally some mistakes happen, and you try to avoid that at all costs. But you know, if you get done once, the fine is not too tough if it's a mistake. But obviously, if it gets deliberate or it happens more than once, it's you know, the fines increase or the suspensions increase. But it's a difficult thing because you can have everything is so rigorous, and you can have a mistake, and it can happen. You try and avoid all these mistakes, and it can happen in a big race.
Do you feel like it's more rigorous over here than it is in Ireland?
I don't know what happens in Ireland, but it's very rigorous over here, and we get inspected. We have to keep all the medication locked up. We have to keep intense records of everything. Every time any prescription drugs are given, they have to be written down and recorded, so if you have an inspection, you know exactly what's been given on that day at that hour. You know, it's very rigorous.
Just out of interest, do you get nervous about sort of people coming in and touching certain horses or not, and sort of
or at the races, going when you're travelling to the races?
When you drive yourself crazy, obviously you put all the precautions in. When you have an open day, you sort of tell the people try not to touch the horses and that sort of thing. But it's just being sensible and abiding by the sort of cut-off dates and that sort of thing.
We're going to have a final word with Jo shortly because I know she needs to dash off to Ripon. But for now, that is it for Talking Points.
Watch live racing now on racingtv.com.